Thank you for joining the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston for our weekly online ministers forum. I'm the Rev D Scott Cooper, Assistant Minister of Congregational Life, filling in for Dr. Bosson, who's away this week. These programs are conversations with community organizers, artists, scholars, religious leaders, and others about how we can collectively address the present crises. Their purpose is to offer members of our community and all who wish to join us online science-based resources. Today I'm joined by Jane Weiner, founder and president of Hopestone Incorporated. Jane founded Hopestone in 1997 with a vision of art for all and created the Hope Project, an arts education outreach program in 2002, which now reaches over 1,100 underserved students through dance, theater, and music classes. Jane has worked with the Alley Theater, Houston Ballet 2, Stages Repertory Theater, and the Houston Children's Museum. Hopestone has celebrated artistic excellence and recognition in Houston for nearly a quarter century. The programs serve a diverse population where the arts foster communities of creative, compassionate, and problem-solving citizens. Through the Hope Project, children and adults are taught music, dance, and theater by highly skilled artists. Hopestone Dance, a professional dance company, stages compelling and accessible new works that challenge, entertain, and educate audiences. Jane, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Before I talk about how much we need the arts in our society and how much we've missed live performances this past year, I'd like to get to know a bit more about you. I read that in college you majored in deaf and elementary education and minored in dance. So how did that lead you to become interested in making art and performing accessible in Houston?
Well, yes, I went to school in Ohio, round at the ends, high in the middle. It's Ohio, and did a double major, deaf and elementary education, and minored in dance because there wasn't even a dance major there at the time. And I kind of pursued my career there. I ended up going an extra year because of various reasons that colleges like to keep you for more years so that they can get more money from you, I think. And I started a dance company there with the dance professor who became a dear friend and has been my mentor all my life. And that kind of got me interested in, what's it like to kind of step out of being a dancer and really start to create for the audience. So I worked there for a year and then made the big move to New York City, where I did use my education degree for about 6 months. I taught in a Catholic school in Chinatown. And during that time, I started an after-school program and again, kind of got interested in, wow, the arts really can go deep, and I have a little bit more freedom being an art teacher than kind of being a classroom teacher. So at the end of that it was a long-term sub position. I gave up my education in the public school system and really started kind of studying what it would be like to do arts education for children. I proceeded to have a fantastic professional career in New York for about 10 plus years, where I traveled the country and the world with the Doug Elkins Dance Company. And then in 1995, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. I moved here for what was supposed to be a year of helping her, and that was 24 years ago. So that was a long year. And here I am. And Houston has, I don't know, I feel like a stone, Hopestone, and Houston has been the ocean. It just keeps washing up on me and changing my edges and smoothing things out and changing the course of my life every 6 months to a year. I feel like Houston just keeps guiding me to new things.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really fascinating. And it certainly led you to do some wonderful things. Like, Almost 25 years ago, you were led to create this organization whose mission is to unlock the innate creativity of young people and adults through our arts outreach programs. I love that. Talk about some of the ways you've created to do that.
So when I moved here in 1997, my sister was actually going through the second phase of her cancer treatment, which was a stem cell transplant. She just celebrated 24 years of being a stem cell transplant survivor. And I was able to find a small studio that Kathy and Jennifer Wood gave to me for free, where I started just on my days that I wasn't taking care of my sister and my niece, because we tried to kind of keep their lives as normal as possible with her husband working, I would sneak away on Saturdays and start just choreographing. Now, I never wanted to be a choreographer. I always wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a muse. I wanted the New York Times to write reviews about me. I wanted to win a Bessie, and that was not happening. And I started to create some phrases and some dances, and I did a solo, and then I did a duet, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger, where I created the Hoapstone Dance Company, which has been the longest entity here in Houston. So I had success with it. Houston welcomed my work with open arms. It was really wonderful and beautiful and at times healing because, oh my gosh, Houston accepted my work and that felt good. And then in 2004, we started looking at maybe having a studio. 2 years prior to that, I started kind of investigating this idea that kind of talking about the Catholic school and the after school project. I kind of began to investigate that because I kept saying, you know, I do have this desire to reach and bring the arts to children, especially. So in 2002, we started doing a little bit of outreach here and there. And then in 2004, we got a set space and I created what was at that point called Kids Play. And we invited about 17 high school students. They would come to the studio for free twice a week or 3 times a week? Twice a week. And they would do dance, theater, and music with us. It was Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's kind of interesting. All of those students now send me their pictures of their babies, and you know, and I feel very old. But that started this idea because I kept having the thought: if we can bring our kids to our studio, this beautiful studio that was, you know, light and clean, and give them art, what would happen? And so we did that project and extended that project for quite a bit of time, and 10 years, in fact, before we closed the studio. And that was beautiful because it taught me how to really begin to work with all ages. From the teenage group, we went to ages 8 to 12, and then from there we went to even younger, 6 to 8. We also had small creative movement classes at our studio, which were wonderful, and parent and me classes. So we just kept bridging it out bigger and bigger within the studio before we, of course, closed it 6 years ago. That was kind of where I really was like, wow, the power of the arts for all of us. Why are we not doing this as a nation on a regular basis?
Oh, totally. Well,
yeah.
I majored in art and minored in theater in college, and I taught art for a while. So I not only know how important these things are for kids as well as adults, but how they tend not to be a priority in many schools. I mean, certainly the sports gets a lot of money, but the arts may not.
Yeah.
But that's my pet peeve. So is what you do a way to give kids access to the arts that they might not otherwise get?
Yes, I believe so. And I believe those first 10 years that I had the studio, that was like my pouring the cement of the base of the House of Hoapstone. Like I said, we closed the studio 6 years ago, and with that, we didn't have the edifice, the bricks and mortar to really make our home base. And so it pushed me, instead of bringing the kids in, I went out. And in going out, I found that there's way too many schools that want arts. I mean, the teachers that I work with, they want the arts there. They may have one teacher there who's doing everything for 300, 400, 500 kids. And, these teachers are doing a lot, but it's still not enough. Kind of segueing, I did a TED Talk right before I closed the studio. And in it, I talked about an army of artists, of art teachers, to kind of like go into the schools and infiltrate the schools and help our education system, because the arts complete the child. I think of like the Greeks. When you looked at how the Greek people taught their children, and not even their children, even adults and young people, the arts were equal to math. They were equal to the languages. They were equal to social studies and science. It wasn't like it was a step down, which is what's happening in our country. I feel like the arts are kind of like that kind of cute little thing that you do if you have enough time. And yet, all of the studies show that it completes the child's brain. It allows them to be the creative thinker, the problem solver, the critical thinker that we need in our world right now as we go through pandemics and climate change. And I mean, list after list after list. We need critical thinkers. And that's what the arts supply. And so yet it's being taken away at every turn. And there's a little bit of a surge in it, but I look at it and I'm like, why isn't the day of the child planned around arts education? And I know I'm preaching to the converted with you.
Yeah, but I don't think we can say it enough. I think you're absolutely right. I think a person who isn't exposed to these things, that their life just isn't fully well-rounded or complete.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, I will see some of the most brilliant people, but like built right into the arts is compassion. I mean, which is so preached at your church. I love your place of worship. And I mean, compassion, I feel like should be the first sentence, at your church. And the arts just give it because there's just everybody is equal. It levels the playing field. And as we like to say, I always think of Gayla Miller, who is one of my theater teachers and kind of my support and just always gives me so much great feedback. She's taught for me for 20 plus years. And she says, Jane, we're not making artists, we're making citizens. I love that idea. That, it's not like we're trying to make a prima ballerina or somebody that's the lead in the opera. What we're doing is we are trying to bring people to the conference table and how instead of putting people down and I look at our Congress. I mean, our Congress needs art. Holy cow. Because it creates teamwork and compassion. Right. So again, I'm preaching to the converted, but we can't say it enough. We can't say it enough because it's not changing enough, and I get angry about that. Like here we have something that helps every single child. And, let's just talk more about testing.
Oh, I know.
Especially during a pandemic, really, come on.
Yeah. And it's so hard to explain to some people how this does round out and make people better critical thinkers. And some people are only convinced with numbers and being quantified, and which is a perfect segue. I found this on your website. It was by an elementary school principal, and he said, prior to Hope Stone arriving on our campus, our suspension rate was higher than any other small campus in HISD. With Hope Stone, we were able to reduce our suspensions this academic school year by more than 65%. So I think that just speaks to a world of things about keeping the kids engaged. Tell us about how some of that has happened in these places that you've gone.
Yeah, and we were at prior to that elementary school, we were in another one, and we're actually now trying to work in both of them during the pandemic. And at the first one, we were lucky enough to get Rice University to do a study with us. It was a year-long study at Rice University. At the end of it, we found out, both through the teachers and the parents, that self-regulation within their child went up for the something like 20-ish%, which is huge when you think about that, that they noticed that self-regulation was just really getting better. And so, the arts allow that, because to be an artist, and I think we all are artists, some people make money from art, but we are all artists. Like, how can we say, tell everybody in this country, you are an artist. All of you are artists. We just have to kind of tap that, like I think of the sap in a tree. Just, we have to put that in there and let it run. And in the beginning, it's slow, but, it begins to drip out of us in this beautiful way. So, yes, we walk into this school. Self-regulation was not part of the school. We are working really hard. This principal is amazing. He's just got his heart in the right place, and he's, taking his teaching staff. And then, a year later, and it wasn't even a year later, because, we are at a year right now where we got shut out of our schools. March 10th was when spring break started, and we were closed down for what was supposed to be 2 weeks. So we were only in this new school for less than a year. I would say 16 weeks. And he noticed the suspension rate. And we were going into that school once a week. So could you imagine what would happen if we were there every day, or even twice a week, if we had the funding to be in that school twice a week? And the teachers were noting the difference, because they had to, in order to play a drum, the drum teacher was like, you've got to put your hands down so you can hear me talk. That's self-regulation. That's helping kids that never, couldn't hear that. And the suspension rate went down and down and down. Now, I also applaud the faculty there and the principal there. They are amazing. They care about the kids, and I give them so much, they are my heroes and sheroes. Any teacher right now that's dealing with what's going on. But yeah, that's happening. And again, kind of with the close of the studio, we were able to go into schools that have higher and higher need. And when I say need, I mean need of food, clothing, medical attention. These kids need, eyewear, hearing aids sometimes, clean underwear, deodorant, laundry detergent. And so that's where we are. And I love it. And the art, because the arts say to them, you matter even if your shirt is dirty. We don't care about that. Let's just make some great art right now. And it's really awesome.
You were talking about how the pandemic cut that school year off, and the great things that were happening when the school had to close. So obviously, any live performance, dance, theater, the symphony, all these things have been just horribly affected, if not just flat shut down. And people like me who love to go to the theater are just dying to get there. So tell us what's happened in the past year, how that's affected what you've done this past year.
It's interesting. I'm going to go back to 6 years ago when I closed the studio, and when I was doing my TED Talk, which I kind of realized if I was talking this talk, I better start walking the walk about it. And that was how do we get, our hashtag is art for all. So if I'm saying that, how does that happen? And I think I want to look at the silver lining of the pandemic. I can't wait to go to the theater. I can't wait to go see live dance. And it was a lot of art was for the privileged few. When I look at ticket prices, and then I look at the schools that I'm in, aside from free performances, which are hard to do because the busing isn't free. I would say, oh, here's a free performance, but the teachers would say, well, we can't afford the busing.
Wow.
So, that's coming up. I think the pandemic is making us think about how do we start really reaching, more audience. And the digital, I'm a little bit tired of digital. Because, it's just it's almost overkill. And yet, at the school that we're working right now, all of those children, I think aside from like maybe 5 families right now, have electronics. That was different than a year ago because of the poverty. And that was something that Hopestone worked with. We were able to get electronics donated, gently used or new to the school. So these families now hotspots are a different story, and we're working on that. But these families now have electronics in their homes so that they can see digital, and that's a big thing. Again, so that levels the playing field. And when we go back to live performance, how do we keep those families that can't afford a $65 ballet ticket or opera ticket or theater ticket? How do we keep them still going to see live theater? So that's the silver lining of the pandemic, is it's making us think about making things more accessible, I think. And 6 years ago, I saw that because we did a performance where it was free. I started doing free performances because I was kind of like, I'm tired of not reaching a community that can't see this. And that wasn't the solve of it, but we did it in an area that was near a project. And we were doing a dress rehearsal, and this family walked by in their strollers. They were from the projects, and they said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Oh, here's this free performance. Come back tonight at 7 o'clock. Not only did they come back, they brought about 20 people from the projects. And that's my goal. How do I make that happen at all of my performances? How do I get 80% of the projects at my performances? I used to do something with Discovery Series at the Hobby. Judy Stallings did it, and that was brilliant. It was free performance. We did it for 6 days and reached about 3,000 kids. But I want all performance to be that way. So how do we get our country to look at the arts, support the arts, so that we're not going like ticket sales, we need the ticket sales, and instead say, how do we go into the projects and let them come to see the Nutcracker or A Christmas Carol or anything else, instead of the price tag that goes with it, and you can't bring a family of 5 from the projects there's no way. So so that's been a big change. And then when we leave, our performances are going to have to be smaller. I think the big theaters are beginning to look like dinosaurs and be obsolete. And does it make us like the traveling, performers that went into neighborhoods? Catastrophic Theater just did that. They kind of put themselves, I think, in a truck, and then they drove around to people's homes and did performances. That's brilliant. I mean, that's like taking it now and saying, okay, we're tired of digital, but here's how we're going to do it. And so we can quit answering the answer to all these grants and foundations of how many were in your audience, instead of, did you reach a different audience? That's what I'm hoping might change. I am so hoping for the change after this pandemic of reaching new audience.
Oh, that's fascinating. I don't know that would have even occurred to me, but you're right. Maybe this is our chance to open this up to people who otherwise wouldn't have a way to appreciate this really cool stuff.
And the other thing that goes with that is, especially with, and I say this about dance, but I also think when I look at like how my music teachers teach and how my theater teachers teach, they're so movement based, especially when you have kids with self-regulation problems. You're standing and you're moving. And there's so much about the neuroplasticity that's coming out, like how great dance is. And this goes back to the story of like why we're not all doing arts, because it just keeps our brains plastic and movable and malleable, which is something that we lose as we age. And in a couple of our projects, we do work with the elderly, and the arts help with that. So the other thing, this is that stone being washed over by the Houston waves, is I realize it's not about technique anymore. It's not like, oh, look, I can do 3 turns, or, oh, I can recite this monologue and just get accolades for it. Instead, it's kind of like, how do we get our audience involved? Because I think we're all tired of sitting. And what if we said to our audience, you're part of this performance now too? And I did a piece again right before we closed the studio called Jane Knows Stuff, where I completely broke down the fourth wall. And at points we had pizza being delivered well before the Ellen show. I had the pizza delivered to my show. And we had people come up from the audience and fold laundry, and we asked them to actually take selfies. And, if you're going to bring your social media, then use it during my performance. I don't want you to put your phone away just to overuse it then. And so, again, that's this rethink. We have to rethink theater, because since 2012, we have lost 33% of our audience. So, do we just keep saying, well, at least we have enough of an audience, so let me, let's just keep trying to do the same old thing? I don't think so. I think the pandemic is saying it's time to do new things. And I love that. I love the idea of that new ideas.
Well, I was going to ask you to talk more about the dance company. The website talks about the compelling and accessible new works. It sounds like you just described one of those. What else about the dance company that we need to know?
I, of course, love my dance company. In fact, Christian, who you know so well, and who's going to edit this at the end, was one of my dancers, fabulous dancer and performers. I like to call them performers because I had pieces like, I think of Christian, where he both danced and recited things, for 4 and 5 minutes. So you can't just, you have to really be a performer. We did, over the course of the pandemic, the Contemporary Arts Museum opened up their space. We kind of did it in masks and learned how to create in socially distant dance spaces. I had 5 women, and we moved all far enough away so that even when we got kind of heavy breathing from moving around, we would still be far enough away. And how to film that, I used Ben Doyle from Bend Productions, and we're putting together a film, and it'll probably go into more of a project. It was a week-long residency. I didn't expect to spit up 30 minutes of work. I thought, gosh, I'd be lucky to come up with an 8-minute piece. And 30 minutes later, I realized I had a shell of a new film. So I'm working on that. So again, that's the pandemic. It's just pushing us. I don't want to complain about it. Bloom where you are planted. Right now, we're planted in a world where we have to wear masks and be socially distanced, and figure out how to make the arts work. To me, it looked like the old model was beginning to die. It might die after this. And as artists, we have to kind of go, okay, so if I don't have a theater, what's going to be my theater? How do I keep audience involved with me? So I think this is our big question. And I love doing it with the company right now. We are going to do a film. That's nothing new. I don't think that's on the cutting edge, but I've never done one. I've always wanted to do one. So now's a good time. And then after that, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I did go from huge theaters to much smaller theaters because I got tired of it. I felt like people were watching little ants dance on a stage, and I'm like, that's boring. I'd rather be close up and in odd spaces. So I like working with that. I like breaking the fourth wall. We did one where we invited them all in to have cookies and milk with us. So how can we, kind of keep that going? The vaccine's going to change things. I think we will begin to open up and change. It's not going to be what we had before, but that wasn't normal. So to return to normal is not what I want anyway. There were a lot of problems. There were a lot of problems to begin with. So what I'd like to see is a return to inclusivity and compassion, or maybe not even a return to that. Maybe it's a discovery of inclusivity and compassion.
Oh, that's wonderful. But we're almost out of time, so I hope that after hearing this, there's people who want to support what you're doing, because it's obviously really good work and you clearly have a really big passion for it. So tell us your website address. Hopestone is a 501c3, so they can go there and donate. So tell us where to go and what we can do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do a quick little plug. So yeah, our website is hopestoneinc.org. We also have 2 new YouTube channels because of the digital part of it. And one is Hopestone Digital Arts Library. Let me say that again, Hopestone Digital Arts Library. And that is where we're housing 3 kind of different channels. We have Reading with Hope. I have some celebrities that are reading children's books, particularly local celebrities. Lauren Anderson from Houston Ballet, Carlos Correa from the Astros, the wonderful Lena Hidalgo, Judge Lena Hidalgo has been reading for us, and more on the way are coming in. And we also have a Take Fives, which is short mindfulness videos, especially geared towards middle schoolers and high schoolers, because during this pandemic, the anxiety is definitely there. So we have these short videos for folks to do, and anyone can do them, but we are gearing them towards that. And then we have another one called Smart Breaks, which we did in conjunction with Stage's Repertory Theater. And we will be releasing our very first Smart Break, which is kind of like a children's show. We have hosts and we have art teachers that come and teach theater and dance and music. They run about 20 to 30 minutes, and we're really excited about that. And my hope is that it might even turn into a children's TV show. That's kind of one of the changes that we might be making, the pivots, as they say. And then there's just another YouTube channel called Hopestone Dance, which has short performance videos. I need to put one with Christian in there so your congregation can see him when he was a dancing fool for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we definitely always need donations. We're an arts company, but right now our big need is trying to get electronics for my students. So if any of your congregation have gently used working electronics, please, please, please let me know there. Because they're always breaking. There's always new students coming in. We need that definitely. That's kind of the social justice arm that we've discovered. Sometimes when you can't do art, you do artful things, and artful things usually are compassionate things.
Is your TED Talk still out there for people to watch?
Yes, it is. It is still there. Gosh, it's not on our website. I'll add it to my website so it's there, and I'll also, why don't I go ahead and send you the link so that you have it, and maybe you can pass it
that'd be great.
around, or we could even put it in the blurb. It is on YouTube. So
well, thank you so much for talking to me. This has just been fascinating, and I'm loving what you're doing, and I hope a lot of the people watching will check you out on YouTube and at your website.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much. It's been my honor, and it's been just so nice to talk to you.
I've enjoyed it too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Stay healthy. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. Drink water.
Those of you who are with us on the Ministers Forum for the first time, let me say a few words about Unitarian Universalism. We're a religious tradition that celebrates the possibility of goodness within each human heart, the transformative power of love, and the clarifying force of reason. We believe that we need not think alike to love alike. We hope that you find these forums a source of connection, hope, and clarity. If you found this video to be helpful, please consider joining us for our weekly worship service. It's posted online each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. and features music and prayers in addition to a sermon. And this Sunday, we have a very special guest preacher. Thank you to our staff for making this video possible. It was produced by Christian Holmes. Alma Viscara assisted with the editing. We'll see you all online soon and in person as soon as it's possible for us to gather again. And please remember that no matter how isolated you feel, we are all in this together.